All right. And let's go ahead and get started. Hi, Abby. I see you in the chat already. I'm so excited you're here for the stream. So I have everything with Beetlebug pulled up, at least all of my reference. So let's go ahead and get started. Thank you for the hand reference, by the way. I need to go through and find the picture. It's ridiculous, but I was having so much trouble finding like an old swamp lady outfit. But then I started looking at pictures of like those like Halloween witches that you hang up outside of your porch. And they have like really amazing ripped clothing that looks like it belongs in a swamp. So I'm like very excited for that because I love the puppet you sent me, but I could not find like good reference for clothes like that. So we're going to be doing that. I found a little stooped grandma. So to give you guys an idea, Beetlebug is a hairless cat tabaxi, and she's very, very, very old, and she lives in a swamp. So let's really play into this hunched thing. I want to let me grab the head, and then we'll move into maybe some of this wonderful like gesture from this little old hunched grandma that I found. I'm gonna really roughen the head over here. I know you said she has a triangular shaped face, so I'm going to try and keep it a little bit more angular than this one. Okay. I do still want her to be like cute in a grumpy old lady kind of way, so I'm going to give her giant ears because in general with like mammals, kittens have larger ears. I know this species of cat has larger ears, and just when you give things big ears, they tend to look cuter. Right, so let's find if that's like the rough shape of the head. I'm gonna give her like, how do you want her to be like hunchback almost, or should she be like somewhat normal? I don't know. I'm gonna give her like, I'm kind of alternating between like poses of like cats hunched over and then this little old grandma pose that I found. Somewhat normal. Okay, so we'll scale it down a little bit. All right, I won't go right that hunched. Okay. We'll pull it. All right, so I'm gonna pull her spine kind of up and over, but like we'll keep her cat paws relatively normal. Okay, something like that maybe. Does that kind of work? Then like something kind of like this for the paws. I don't know. If that's a little too gremlin-esque, let me know. I don't know how well you can see it. It's like, it's pretty hunched. If you want it less, I can adjust it now, but this would be a good time to say something. Full gremlin, okay. So, all right, I'm gonna say like, other arm can be like back here, coming up. I'm kind of departing from the reference at this point. I'm going to give her sort of like a eldritch claw thing here and maybe a little bit of magic. But a lot of this is just going to be kind of hanging down, so we're not going to see much of it. I don't know. Does she have like a walking cane or something? Or a stick? Or does she just kind of hobble along on her own? I feel like she would have big feet. I feel like a cutie with big feet. Okay, crooked old stick. All right, we'll do that. I feel like she's gonna be in like swamp goop, so I'll give like a little sprig of grass there. All right, this is kind of what I'm thinking, like body wise, but if you want anything with the general shape change, let me know. And it's pretty easy to correct at this point. Maybe give her a really long tail because it seems a little creepy. Okay, great. Let's go through, and then if you're good with this for the posture, I'm going to go through and play around with her head. I have like a really grumpy looking Sphinx cat, and I feel like we can go with that, but make the eyes a lot bigger. And it's just going to give her like this really weird, like almost inquisitive baby look. And does she look a little crazy? We could give her like mismatched pupils too. I don't know. Some of the bigger Sphinx cats. Kind of like that. Okay, so she does have like a nose that comes down. Give her like a really grumpy, weird expression. Okay. Give her like little hound dog jowls. Right. And if you see something you really don't like, feel free to like jump in and say something. And we can adjust it pretty easily, I think. Pencil stuff, especially if it's not like a major change, is fairly easy to adjust. But then when we get to painting, I can't really change the drawing anymore. All right. I know she's also a calico, but I think instead of actually drawing out those patches, we'll probably just paint them in because I mostly want to give like these sort of deep groovy lines to her little wrinkles. All right. And then she's got like a cheekbone over here. And we'll try and make the rest of this kind of wrinkly and fold around so that it kind of frames the skull. Okay. So I guess here we could either give her like really big pupils and make her look kind of cute, or we could give her like weirdly small pupils, kind of like that, and she's gonna look creepy. You let me know if there's like a vibe you're going for. I think there's kind of like a weird sort of like balance we're striking over here with this, so I'm not quite sure how far you want to push in either direction. Which, oh my gosh, I just realized I jumped right into this and I completely forgot to plug all the things that I thought that Kat asked me to plug. So wait, tiny intermission. We're going to take a second to plug things. So everyone who's watching, I want to let you know that tomorrow at 6 p.m. is Chaos Curiosities with Chris or Kristen. She's known as Chris in our campaign because we have 2 Kristens. That she's going to be world building. Thursday at 5 p.m. is our other long-term campaign at the Threshold. Friday at 7 p.m. is Somnum Exteri. And then next week at 5 p.m. is our Tana again. Tuesday, I am back at 1 p.m. for Watercolor Wizardry, but we are just doing one character. We are doing the final character in the Omalia campaign because the Omalia campaign is starting at 4:30. It is called Misguided Magic. And we are going to be running a like 5e homebrew all girls game. I'm very, very excited for it. And I hope you are too. And come watch. Yeah, and that's what this character is from. This is Beetlebug. Beetlebug is our resident druid. And she's Circle of the Land Swamp, I believe. She's very grumpy. She's very old. She's also connected to one of our other characters who we painted the other day to, wait, no, not him, to her. They are best friends. And you can learn all about them next Tuesday. This is sort of like a political heavy, role play heavy campaign. And the group, sort of the premise is that this group are a bunch of paid mercenaries masquerading as politicians, negotiating a peace treaty, but also thwarting would-be assassins, and trying to stay alive long enough to preserve peace for the country that they are from and or represent. So the one-shots, which will be what this campaign is starting with, are going to be between a group of 2 characters, so Beetle and Scoria, our fire genasi, for next week. And then the following week, we're going to have it between Brosco, the orc assassin. Oh shit, I'm forgetting Kristen's character's name, but he is a drow gloomstalker, and our Twilight cleric, Julianne, who we are about to do art for in a couple hours. And it's going to be kind of how they came to be hired to do the job that they are doing when the campaign starts. That's the general premise I'm going with, but of course, as many of you know, when you have a general idea for a campaign or a one-shot, it is often derailed. So if that doesn't end up happening, I guess it will just be a side adventure, but hopefully it will end with them getting recruited. And I'm very excited for that. I've been trying to think of what fun low-level monsters would be like most relevant / what sort of adventures would be most relevant for the personalities that have already come to be. And I'm extremely excited for all of the potential. We have some wonderful, wonderful personalities and some amazing backstories, which I am not going to share because they are very, very secret, but I'm super excited about them. I will tell you that nobody has submitted a backstory to me that is less than 2 pages. It is all 2 pages plus. So people are very into their characters, very devoted to their characters. I can't wait to see what they end up doing with them. I don't know. Wait, do hairless cats have whiskers? I don't know. Maybe they don't. Okay. You say slip pupils, I think. Let me double check. I think you did. Okay, they do. Okay, great. Let me give her eyes that are pointed in slightly different directions. Like not super evident, but like I feel like it wouldn't be 100% laser focused. Just so that you can never quite tell if she's looking at you or not. All right. I'm very excited that someone chose to be a cat person because I work professionally as a pet portrait artist. So I'm very familiar with cats and I also feel very used to painting them. You can find my pet portrait / commissions at mariaoglesbyart.com, which I think is plugged in here. I take commissions via Etsy. I'm actually very stressed out right now because I have 2 commissions that I need to work on, but I can't get my printer up and working, and I need to print my reference. We'll see. Okay, where do the wrinkles end though? I'm gonna put a few on like the base of the ear, maybe. There we go. Oh, she's so cute and grumpy. I feel like she's a swamp baby. Like she's been in some fights. Maybe part of her ear should be missing. I feel like that's pretty common with cats because that skin is so delicate, right? What do you think, Abby? I was picturing medium sized because I think Tabaxi's size is medium, but Scoria is tiny. Um, so I think probably like Scoria, they would probably be about the same height because she's so hunched over. But then if she were to actually stand up, she would be significantly taller, is my thought. And also Scoria wears heels. So Scoria is like this tall. She's 3 feet. I don't think I saw exactly how tall Beetle was, if there is an exact height given, but all right. I will say that she was attacked by something in the swamp at some point, and now she is missing part of her ear. Hopefully not an important part. Gosh, it's so weird seeing the inside of a cat's ear because usually it's covered with hair. I'm just gonna do kind of like, I don't really want to draw all the little ear parts, but I'm just gonna do like some shading over here. That should be fine. Add some wrinkles here. $4.11. Okay. So she's little, but she's definitely like not as little as Scoria, who I think is like, no, is Scoria is like 4 feet. Okay, it's not that dramatic a difference. It's still pretty different. I feel, is 4'11" her hunched height or her actual standing height though, is the question. All right, and then let me look at some of these kitty paws. All right, I'm gonna do some non-wrinkled paws and then we'll go back and we'll add some wrinkles later on. I feel like I'm doing like a little baby T-Rex. Okay. Or maybe she would wear shoes. I don't know. I don't have her in shoes. I have her as just like a barefoot cat in a trench coat that's been all like messed up. Not a trench coat, a giant shawl. I'll give her some T-Rex feet. I'm not going to go up too much from here until I figured out what she's wearing because I want to make sure that I don't leave like a, I don't know, I don't want to go all the way up to here and then have to like erase some of it. Oh, but you know what? Her hands are going to be free. So let's specify some of those. Let me look at that hand reference you sent me because I was asking her like before the stream, I'm like, how claw-like are her hands? And she had like a reference photo already for me of like the exact amount. They're mostly hand-like, but they have like some uncommonly thick digits, and they have claws. I mean, all tabaxi have claws, whatever. Okay, we gotta go back through and add them wrinkles. Okay, and I think she just has, what, 3 fingers? I'm gonna say she has 3 fingers. I'm gonna go for something kind of like that. I kind of like how big her little hands are. But again, Abby, if there's anything you don't like, tell me. Just gonna go back through and add some wrinkles. With wrinkles, if you're ever drawing like wrinkles or gaps in fabric or anything like that, you have to have like a little rise in the skin before it comes in, because it's that crease that's going to create the wrinkle. So if there's no rise on either end, it doesn't look realistic. Otherwise, it just looks like you're adding lines or stripes to the character. So I'm kind of going back along the surface and trying to pull these around wherever I'm seeing like a joint or an elbow or something. Oh my gosh, she's so deformed. Maybe I should be a little bit more straight with at least some of these. At least, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Oh, I'm so glad. Okay. And then she's got one little wrinkle hand left. Okay, so hands are always like rectangles. So you just have to like draw out the rectangle and then have make sure the fingers are coming out of it. Otherwise, it'll make it look like the character doesn't have much of a palm. So for example, this is the palm. The claws come out of the palm. Or the toe beans come out of the palm. All right, we'll do that. We'll just add on some little wrinkles. She's got so many lines to her. I've got to figure out a way to simplify her in case I ever do like art from a scene or something. But for now, she's okay. Okay. I feel like she's just wearing like little wrinkly skin gloves. Okay. That's okay. They can be like weird and swollen, I think. Do you usually play like creepy gremlin characters and stuff like this? Or is Beetlebug kind of like an outside the norm choice for you? Okay. That's fun. All right. I can't wait to see her. Kat was telling me you're like super funny, so I'm very excited to see how you play her. I feel like there's a lot of fun that can be had with something this weird looking. Which Abby is the only person in our game who I've not actually like met and or played with personally. So I'm very excited. It actually comes very highly recommended from like several of the other people in the stream. Right. I know you described her as being like bent like a juniper. So I'm trying to go for like some juniper bark-esque stuff with the walking stick here. Also just like swirly shapes like this. Okay. All right. I think we're good for the face and skin. So let's move on to posture a little bit more and clothing. Um, I feel like the posture is pretty set. I want to pull her arm back just a little and give her like a slightly more defined shoulder. Okay, so if this is like her deltoid and this comes back into her elbow, I feel like cats have like two though. They have like the front joint here. So this is like her shoulder blade then. So the shoulder blade should rest along her back. Sorry. All right, so this will come back like that, and that will come out. Okay, that works a little bit better. She's probably got like a pony little cat back. All right, I think most of this is going to be hidden though. So most of this is just kind of me figuring out where her body is so we can figure out where her folds hang. Do tabaxi have boobs? Do they have 6 boobs? I don't know. She's got at least 2 and they're kind of saggy, but I think we're going to hang with a cloak. Let's see. All right, I found this absolutely amazing like Halloween hag doll that we're going to use as clothing reference for her. So she's got like this. First of all, she's got her neck. I feel like she would have like a weird little scarf. I want to put like a lot of holes in it and make it feel kind of knitted, but I mean, it's going to take absolutely forever, but it is going to be like wholly sort of. I'm feeling a little more confident. So I'm going to switch to this pencil because it keeps things darker and it's easier to put dark washes on things. And I think she has a green motif in general, but she is going to have darker, more earth toned things because I don't think aside from her eyes, she really has that many bright colors that she wears. We'll go ahead and I think down here coming in and up will be one part of the scarf. And one part will just kind of hang. Okay. I'll just make this kind of wavy. It feels kind of moth-eaten and old. And then have a few little like cords and things. She's got some beads. I feel like she would have like a really weird accessory. Like I found a couple necklaces that have like clasp things on the end. I'm gonna give her like a little chicken foot or something. Like I feel like she's that kind of witch. Maybe it's like a crow's foot. It could be a little more elegant. Okay, there we go. And we'll have some beads on it. And then I found some little like druidic markings. I'm gonna give her like some little bone beads with like runes on it. All right. That works. Okay. She has, she keeps pieces of the swamp on her at all times. So yeah, maybe this is like a bird that died in the swamp. I do have like some flask and vial things, but I'm gonna put her cloak on over it first, and then we'll see like what can kind of poke out. I feel like maybe the cloak is kind of raggedy, and then like the the ragged bits she's gone and like sewn things onto. Okay, so she's got like two cloaks, and the top one is like a real mess, and the bottom one is in slightly better shape. It's just like an extra layer. Um, so probably come like down like this. So I guess I'll erase some of this. We can do like a little bit of like a sagging. These are called diaper folds. These like sagging folds. We can do one kind of where her arm is, moving over to this tension point. Like some weird like stringy hanging overlaps. I think some of this is going to be like algae. It's just sort of dried on her cloak. Some of it's ripped, some of it's just like unexplained goop. Look, and we already have some character intrigue. All right. Here we go. This can be one of them. Okay, so like the tendril of her. Oh, you know what? It's sagging in this way. I don't think it would. You know, maybe it'll hold something really, really light, like just some beads or whatever. Especially on this side, let's have some hanging off that like can be some sort of a tendril. There we go. And then to the end of it, she could have tied like a stopper of pond water or something. Here too, just sort of like random vials that are sewn throughout her clothes, which I feel like when she walks, she'll make like a subtle clanking noise, but like a tinkling of bottles sort of thing. I'm very excited for this. Okay. And let's have a few others. I bet the bottom cloak can have some hangers too. So let's oh, I want to stagger the height. So if this one is up here, let's have one like up here. One sec. I have a couple bottle references I can play with. Could be one of the bigger ones. Maybe that one has dirt in it. Or like a little bug. Been preserved. Right, and then you said she had some wooden beads. I have like some different beaded bracelets we can play with. And sort of like strung together. More like functional than pretty. Her lantern is a jar with fireflies. Oh my god. Okay. You feel like some of these are like kind of magical or unique or interesting, but like the way she wears them, no one really assumes they are. Like she has maybe the like tail bone of a giant alligator or something. And she just wears it as like this filthy, gross bracelet, etc. Oh my god, this poor creature. Okay, and then let's see how far is this going to come down. I feel like with her multiple blankets or whatever, we'll have something kind of like this where it'll drape downwards from here. So this area is going to be covered, but this area will be exposed. I do want to have like a few extra little vials and stuff over here. And here's her kind of haunches. So I feel like there'd be a like a pull over here from the fabric. Sort of pulling in like around her. There we go. Oh my god. All right. Yeah, Kristen, feel free to do that. Either with Beetle or if you want to conference with the rest of the group, I'm sure they'd be open to it. maybe like, I wonder if there would be lumps in here just because like there's random potions that you can see through it or something. All right. And then we might have like a couple random, like sort of gossamer bits hanging down over here, but I think that's most of her cloak slash outfit, which I guess you can't see a whole lot underneath. If there's anything else you want me to pull out, Abby, feel free to let me know. I think part of this leg is just going to be bare. I don't think she has a whole lot underneath it. She's just got like some, I don't know, saggy bones. Okay. Oh, good. I'm glad. All right. I'm pretty much done with the drawing at this point. Right on time. Oh, I need to wrinklify her tail. Like probably not toward the tip. That area is a little more bony. Okay, there she is. All right. So let's go ahead and start painting her now. Um, I'm gonna double check your description, Abby, before I continue and just make sure I haven't forgotten anything. Okay, so we have hairless and pinkly. Okay, so we've got acid green eyes, and then we have these like calico markings that we need to paint in, and then we need to make sure that we make her dirty. All right. So I'm going to start off with just like this pinkish tone. We'll play around with that and slowly add other markings and kind of go from there. So I'm just going to sort of universally lay this in. And we'll add some shadows, highlights, other colors on top of this. Because I think, yeah, the pink is like the default because that would be the white for the calico. And then she's going to have some black and some orange splotches over it. Let's figure out just how much exposed skin she has. I feel like she has just as much exposed skin as Scoria. They kind of match, but it gives a very different effect. Oh, shoot. There's a little bit of the cloak there that I accidentally painted over, but that's okay. No mistakes in art, just happy accidents. All right. So in general, what you want to do when you start painting something in watercolor is you just sort of cover everything with whatever the lightest tone is that you're going to be using. And then you go darker from there. It's a light to dark medium. And sometimes I like to block things in with ink to lay in some blacks farther earlier on for some contrast. But usually that's just in the eyes. And as I go through, I'm going to sort of reaffirm some of this, and I want to go in with some pinks. We'll go for some earthy pinks because she's a swamp creature, and we'll just kind of tap those in. Stylistically, I like to make the tips of the fingers, or pretty much wherever there's a joint, fill up the middle of the face, kind of a little extra pink / red. Adds a little bit of circulation. I feel like it gives a little more vitality to the characters. The middle of the face is mostly because there's a red color zone in the middle of the face. So it feels a little bit more natural to have some red here. And then pulling this out as we fade up. And then usually do blue on women, you do like olive, but you'll do like sort of some olive shading around the bottom of the face, but since it's a cat, like proportions are slightly different. And the farther up you get, the more close you get to like an ochre color. Kind of like that. And then up by the ears, we'll also add some in. All right. We should do the tip of the tail too. I love it. Okay. We've got most of the skin tone. And then when that dries, we're going to come in with like some slightly darker colors for some of the cast shadows. These are mostly just sort of form shadows or basic coloring. But we'll come in with like I guess an olivey blue maybe. And just kind of like this, like paint in some areas that should be in shadow that you don't want to draw as much attention to. That'll sort of fade in with the rest of the character. Oftentimes things that are kind of pushed to the background can be this color. And then we'll come in once that's dry and just sort of re-articulate some of these wrinkles. I also want to go through and probably the shadow color, any areas of skin that I think would be shown over here. I'm going to go over here and maybe like part of here. So I think she really is just kind of wearing rags. Her poor little swollen arthritic fingers will probably have a decent amount of shading too. All right, and then let's grab some orange. It's not really that orange. It's kind of like a orange sepia color. I'm going to desaturate it some because usually characters lose saturation as they get older, and I feel like the same would happen for cats. So let's figure out where those patchwork splotches are. I guess this could also be mistaken for mud. Maybe you can't really tell on her. Okay. I want to put a bunch in our hands because it reminds me a little bit of like liver spots, like you get when you get really up there in years. So I have at least a few of those on her, just kind of speckled as like calico markings. Oh, that one might not be dry enough yet. I'll try on the fingertips. That works. Oh, I can't wait to hear what voice you're using for this character. All right. Give me plenty for now, and then we'll take some gray spots. Which, oh, let me put this over so you can see what I'm doing. Take some gray spots, and I'm going to mix them out with brown. I'm going to choose splotches that kind of emphasize the shape of her face. And I think on the reference you sent me, some of these blotches were bigger. So maybe we should have part of like a larger blotch, like maybe part of her leg is just all this color. Or part of her tail. All right. Then when we have the color out, I just want to go through and just kind of re-emphasize some of these lines. Right, yeah, she's got like an Angelina Jolie leg. It's okay, she's happy with it. She's made her peace with it. She likes feeling the air there. Also, probably clothing warehouses are hard to come by in the swamp. So she kind of just makes do, I would imagine. Right, then we should start thinking of colors for everything else. I think I'll probably do her cloak, just kind of like a neutral grayish color with some green. We'll go over and maybe add a couple colorful elements with her jewelry and a few other things, but she's going to be pretty earth tone / neutral toned, I think. Right, I just need to go through and I want to reemphasize some of these wrinkles on her head. You know, that's an important part of her character. And I'm going to move this away first because I do not want to get my hand on here. Right. And then we should go back and do some cast shadows after that. Just so we can darken like the inside of the ears and stuff like that. But I'm trying not to get too sidetracked. Fairly sure I have some mild form of ADD. We'll try and stick with the wrinkles for now, and then we'll do the shadows. All right. Let's go through it. I'm just going to mix up like a brownish green for the shadows, maybe a little gray in there. Blue. And I just want to make sure I darken this area over here. I'm going to kind of fade that out at the ends. Just pull this into I'm adding a little bit of purple or blue onto it because the brown I had was pretty warm. And usually for shadows, you want a cool color. You can do warm shadows if you have like cool external light, but usually sunlight is your light. And warm shadows, like yellow orange shadows, are going to have like a purple blue shadow, or warm light, like yellow orange light, like the sun, is going to have like a purple blue shadow because shadows always take on the tint of the complement of the light source. So usually, unless you have like an odd lighting situation and it's very evident what that odd lighting situation is, it's going to feel extremely weird for there to be a warm tone shadow. And so it might read as like just her coloring or something. So you have to add some extra cools in there sometimes. Okay. I feel like she's doing pretty good. I'm going to go over and just add a little bit of shading over here, shading over here. I don't know, maybe it's mud. Who knows? Just kind of separate those fingers a little bit so that it's easy to differentiate between them. It has requested, I'm just going to add some dirt. Just to guess, splash some things on, especially like on the bottom of her feet here. Try and do like a splotch shape or something so it feels clear. I'm just trying to keep it kind of lighter so it doesn't just feel like coloring, but it feels like, I don't know, something's on her. That's fine. I think it's fine. I think we all get the impression that this is not a clean creature, which I think is the main issue that we wanted to avoid. Okay. Do a little bit of like cool white for the whites of her eyes. I think that those highlights we drew out. And then I do have like a really bright, like lime green I'm gonna grab, and I'll just dilute it a little bit for her eyes. We'll keep it pretty pure. And here we go. Taking some shadow, and usually the eyelid casts some sort of shadow, so you want to add like a slightly darker color to the top. And you actually want to add something a little bit light to the bottom of the eye, because usually that's where the eyelid is upturned. Let me see, I think I have a 005. Yeah. And then, you know what, let's wait until this is dry actually, because I don't want the ink to bleed, because Micron ink is waterproof, so you cannot change it once you've set it. Let's go in and play around with this cane. We'll mix up kind of like a purpley. Oh, one thing I forgot. Okay, so I know the scar on her palm is the sign of the pact she made with somebody. I will keep that private. But let's have like a hint of that scar poking through. I guess that maybe that doesn't look too much like a scar. Whatever, you know it's there. Scars are actually usually like very close to flesh tones. Sorry, I was just mixing up purple and I was like, oh, scoria, right. All right. Anyone has any questions about painting or creating D&D characters in general, feel free to jump on. These characters are all created by my players, and they fill out like a Google Forms that I send them in order to get a description. And then they upload whatever like reference they need or want. So some upload like just kind of vibes, some upload like really specific reference, some like compile pages for me of things that they'd like. And it's pretty dependent on the player. I got a lot of like fun gremlin vibey things from Abby. But I got to pick out a lot of like the outfit slash what else is going on, because she sent a lot of vibe stuff. although she did send some, like a few things that she really wanted. So this has been very fun to sort of like make this up from scratch. I love micron pens. They're waterproof, so you can actually draw with them first and paint over them if you want like a less sort of saturated look, or if you want to muddy things on top of them. But I think they're also just wonderful in general to draw with. They are waterproof felt tip markers that come in lots of different sizes. So this is 0.005, which is the smallest you can get. As you can see, you can get really, really fine lines, which are really lovely. So I'm going to go through and just sort of emphasize a few of these other areas that I want to make sure really get called out. There we go. And they have colored microns too, which are fun, but the colors are like really, really vibrant. So I don't usually use them unless it's for something really specific, but I'm definitely like a pen hoarder. So I still have collections. All right. What do you think about her cloak color? I'm coloring these bones in the meantime. I think probably, I'm trying to like, okay, maybe it was originally blue, but it's just been like muddied a lot. And we'll add some brown by the hem to kind of show that. I'm going to go over it. And I think the top color is like this grayish blue, but we could potentially like add a darker color underneath. I want to keep this moss kind of free of paint so that we can go in later. She has like all these tiny little parts. I want to make sure there's like enough contrast that her face stands out, because your eye is drawn to the point of highest contrast and the lightest thing in the piece. So I want to make sure that the point of highest contrast is like her like light little gremlin skin against this dark cloak to an extent. So I'm going to start off a lot darker and then maybe fade it out a little bit, because I can buy that her clothes are really old and they're faded, especially toward the hem, or have some dust on them. Oh shoot. No, I messed up. Okay. Sometimes you can take like some water and kind of scrub it out. Oh well, but if that doesn't happen, then you have to rely on the magic of Photoshop. May have to rely on the magic of Photoshop. That might just be stuck there. I don't want to spend too much time on it, because if this wash dries, I'm not going to be able to pick this up and make a seamless transition. The watercolor look is definitely very fitting for Beetlebug, I think. Right. I'm trying to move this around. Then at this point, I need to kind of go around the holes, because I think it would just be a single layer cloak on the edges. So I want to make sure that I don't imply there's another color behind it. We'll go around it here. Gosh, when I finally am able to scan it, I have to make sure I delete those areas when I send PNG. Or maybe Cat will do it. I don't know. We'll see. I am in the midst of unpacking, and I unpacked my scanner and I unpacked 2 of the 3 cables that are needed for it, but I cannot for the life of me find the 4th cable, and it is driving me nuts because I really need my scanner. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going to keep looking for it. If they don't find it by the end of next week, I might just like buy a new cable. We'll see. Okay. And then I think I'm trying to figure out what's scarf and what's shawl. I think just shawl is just over here. Do you have any other color preferences, Abby, for like scarf or anything else? Mostly green? Okay. We'll give her like a green scarf. And we'll put some green underneath the other thing. Again, we're going to try and go around these holes. They actually feel like holes and not just patterns. I'm trying to keep it kind of dark because I want her head to stand out. All right. And then makes it a slightly different shade of green. I'll have that in the middle here. It's like maybe an undercloak or whatever. And it's a little more saturated because it's not quite as dirty yet because it's underneath everything else. We'll give her maybe like a little bit of that over here. Well, and here, maybe her undercloak can also be green. A couple of areas where it overlaps. And I want to make sure that we have like some random like weird moss on her. Add some yellow to kind of nuance it a little bit, draw attention to it. Hi, Colin. How are you? Are you, I know that Kat was telling me that one of her kids was like really into drawing. Is that you? Oh, it's Xander. Okay. Well, that's okay, Colin. Do you draw D&D characters as well? Or do you make up D&D characters? Oh, he draws Minecraft characters. Very cool. Maybe we can do a D&D version of a Minecraft character sometime. Do like a kid special episode. All right. All right. Now I think it's just like, first of all, we need to let this dry, but the rest of this I think is going to be mostly a matter of just like coloring in all the tiny little details and knickknacks on her. I am going to go through and just sort of let her claws. I'll give her a couple that are dark and then a couple that are light. Oh, he likes to draw Sonic and Mario. I like Sonic a lot. Oh, thanks, Abby. Okay. Let's do some red. Because I feel like red and green are probably like the most common natural pigments to get from a swamp. Like I'm thinking like red clay and then like green would just be plants. And then I guess this like petrified chicken or crow leg. Oh, maybe it's a crow leg. Let's make it black. Do like a kind of darky, dirty black. Oh shoot, you know what I forgot? I forgot to do the bottom of her cloak dirty. Let's add a little bit of brown to the bottom of that and see how that looks. Just trying to create like some stain effects or something. So that it doesn't feel like it's necessarily all one color. I think some dry brush works here. Okay. And I do want to go in with like some shadow colors and pull in some of these areas. Right, and then I think we need to maybe around here, like just drastically change tones. That it feels like that darker undercloak is coming through. And it'll make it seem like she's wearing more layers, which I think adds to the general hobo effect. Swamp hobo. All right. Oh, we should put something under here, huh? Oh, hello, Spice. Spice likes being the center of attention. Just trying to make it look like there's another cloak over here, kind of adding to the backdrop. Into the darker colors. I'm kind of tapping into it because usually if you get an area wet, you can tap with a bunch of pigment and it will add pigment. Whereas if right off the bat you try to add a ton of pigment, your brush will be too wet. You're not going to be able to get any precision of line. And we just want to give the idea of lots of like tattered folds here. So adding some lines, starting from here and pulling out. These are going to look a little bit like half-lock folds. Half-lock folds occur whenever something is pressed tight or cinched somewhere and then hangs somewhere else. Okay, I think that works. And we'll just go through and pull out these areas here. It's like glass, I guess. There's some swamp water. We'll have some dirt. I think it'll be fun to add like a few weird colors just to emphasize what's going on here. Okay. I have no idea how much sound muting is on Zoom. But if you can hear someone speaking downstairs, it is my husband talking to his cat. And also the dog trying to get attention. All right. water here. Let's see, what else do we need? Just some green in general, maybe some moss that's been gathered. Is that it? That might be it for the jars. Let's put some caps on them. And we'll have to go over part of the glass so it's not 100% white, because that doesn't make sense. So in general with glass, like you want some bits to be dark and then some to be like really, really bright because it's reflective. And high contrast is kind of the key to anything that feels reflective. Okay. It's kind of funny because before I knew what beetle looked like, I'm working on like PC avatar tokens to advertise the players, which I should have finished, but I haven't yet because I've been very busy. I'm sorry, Kat. But it's funny because I have like a similar outfit that is a lot less tattered and creepy looking on Abby from the reference that she sent me. She sent reference of like someone holding something, which kind of looked like a potion. So I went kind of like witchy alchemist. So we'll see. They may look like they kind of fit together. Be fun. All right. So just these bracelets. It might just be these. Oh, well, there's something here. Okay. Now let's do these wooden beads. And I think after, I don't know, can you guys see anything that I've missed? I think after these bracelets, she's pretty much done. But to be fair, usually after the stream, I notice like one or two things that I missed and I fill things in. So we'll see. I think that might be it. Yeah, all right. I think we're good. I think Beetle's all finished. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. And before we do, let me go ahead and plug things again for anyone who's not here before. So tomorrow at 6 p.m., we have Chaos Curiosities. Thursday at 5 p.m., we have At the Threshold. Friday at 7 p.m., we have Solemn Exterior. And then next week at Monday at 5, we have the Artena game, which is Chris's long-term game. And Chris is playing Scoria. That's not Scoria. These pages keep sticking together. Scoria in my campaign. And then at Tuesday next week, we are back at 1 p.m. for more Watercolor Wizardry. We're going to be doing our very last character since we're doing the 4th character after the break today. And then it's only going to be 1 character from then on as opposed to 2, because right after that at 4:30, we have Misguided Magic, which is the 5e all-girls homebrew campaign that I am going to be running. And it's going to start with a story with Beetlebug and Chris, who's playing Scoria. And they're going to go around being swamp gremlins in a one-shot, getting to know each other before we start in with the final campaign. And yeah, tune in to watch it. And for now, I think we are good to go. We're going to go on break, and then we'll be back in like 10 minutes to start on Julienne, who is Beth's character, one of our other amazing players. And we'll see you soon. And we're back. And we're doing Beth's character. Hi, Beth. We're doing Adrienne, who is a half-elf cleric. And so I'm going to go over some of her description. She has like a lovely long description for the character. So she's got like medium to long dark brown hair. Is worn either down or in a braided bun, but we're going to do down for the art. Fair hair, freckles, blue eyes, round / heart-shaped face, not super curvy, but also not thin, with pointed ears, military-esque clothes, though not a straight-up soldier's uniform, in the colors of Fendere, which are like sky blue and periwinkle. She has a scimitar at her side. She has a very specific jacket that Beth has gone ahead and sent reference for. And she wears black with accent colors of Fendere. She is described as like a very calming presence, and relaxed, comfortable, and gentle are her main keywords. So like very much just like calming, like peaceful vibes. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, I'm gonna pull up her reference over here. Hey, Beth. All right, so if there's anything that you really don't like, let me know and we'll change it. But Beth already sent ahead like some face reference, so I'm going to be using that. And then I found some body reference that I like that I'm going to be using that's like has a nice pose to it, or at least it has one, and the left hand I might change around a little bit. I don't know. Do you think she'd be holding the scimitar, Beth, or do you want her to just be sort of like chilling? I know she's got like calm vibes. And she's almost 6 feet tall. So, well, I guess it's not like a crazy height difference because the other two are 4 feet, but it's still like pretty significant. All right, so you said heart-shaped face, so I'm going to pull this in a little bit more. Okay. Have you gotten a lot of flack for it? Do they make fun of you for being short? I guess I haven't noticed. Beth is in another campaign of mine, and her character is like a human, but she's barely 5 feet tall. She's like super, super tiny. You know what? Give me 1 sec. I think the head reference works better if I flip this image horizontally. Magic Photoshop. Okay. But I have her as just sort of like relaxed, casual, contrapposto. Kind of like this, if that works for you. And she's got one hand at her side. And then I don't know if you would want her holding the scimitar or not. But I can also just have like a hand on her hip or something, keeping her relaxed. Because I know that's like her vibe is just sort of gentle. Maybe she can have a hand like over this pommel or whatever. We can have the sword here kind of coming back. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking here. And then if you don't like it, you can let me know and we'll rework it. Okay, great. All right. And then if you feel like I'm going like too thin with the body type or something, let me know and I can fill her out a little bit more. Depends on what you're comfortable with. And one sec, I'm gonna have to flip. I found that these like great military style boots. But I need to flip those as well. All right. Okay, great. And the boots have kind of like a wedge tip here, but I think I'm just gonna go like round tip because she's such a calm character. All right, I think that's good. I wish I'd brought her down a little bit more, but it's not like she's gonna have a crazy amount of volume on her hair, so I think we're good. I'm gonna go for like some sort of short, gentle waves. Going on this sort of long, flowy feel. There's some of that in the hair reference, but I'm going to kind of emphasize it a little bit more. I'm going to give her like that aerial flip in the front. Okay. And then I'm going to give her kind of like big eyes just because I feel like kind of like a Bambi look feels a little bit like the vibe. but we'll try it. And then if it looks weird, we can get rid of it. I just here, have her ear kind of like poking through over here. Realize that her hair is covering her pointy ears, but okay, it's not bothering me. I think it's fine to make her eyes a little overly large. In general, the reference Beth sent, the character just has like kind of large features in general. So I'm trying to emphasize those to an extent, but just keep like a really calm, sort of like sweet, innocent face. Something that feels very like almost dreamy or zen. Right, I think it'll be something like that. All right, we'll go with that. The face, and then let me double check. She's got this like very specific coat that she's wearing, which Beth was so generous as to send a few different versions. So we're going to go with the open one. So I know she's got like a collar coming out like this. I'm going to pull that out a little bit more than it needs to be, just so that we can have some room for her hair and keep her general vibe just kind of loose. Because I think it does have like a hood on it or something. All right. Yes, this is art for the upcoming 5e stream, Misguided Magic. And we are an all girls D&D 5e homebrew stream. We're going to be starting our long-term campaign next Tuesday after Watercolor Wizardry. Oh, and Lila's here. Lila the cat. Lila the cat, you're busy. Right, I think, okay, if this is going to go under the sword in hand, I think we should probably do the sword first. So let's go through, and I found a few different swords. Let me go ahead and flip this. The sword that I did find, which, oh shoot, there are a few. I think this is it. there are a few different scimitars because I know you specified that you wanted a scimitar. And I was trying to think of something that feels kind of utilitarian, but was also like sort of dainty and like matched the sort of like chill, like simple vibes. And I found these Arabic scimitars, which I thought were really, really pretty. And I think that's what this is. I was going through a lot of different reference, so I'm not 100% on that. Don't quote me on that. But I'm like, so at least 80% sure that's what I'm drawing. I have like 5 or 6 scimitar references that I was looking at, and I couldn't decide between them. So I feel like she would have like a very sensible looking scimitar. And I guess we're not going to see the blade. We're going to see the holster because she wouldn't be holding it by the blade. Doesn't make any sense. I think they're one-handed weapons, so we'll go ahead and keep this nice and short, and then we can see a little bit more of her costume. And I did find a picture of a sheath, so we'll go ahead and do that. And she can just be kind of lightly resting it. We'd probably be going back in space though. It's not going to go directly out. I'm just silly. Okay. So if it's going back in space, it would probably be something like, does that make it look too much like a dagger? I feel like maybe she is holding it kind of sideways based on the angle. I don't want to like mess it up. All right, maybe it is sideways then, because I think that might be the angle she's holding it at. We'll see a little bit on the top because we're looking down on her ever so slightly. Okay. I'm just going to go through and just kind of articulate some fingers real quick. Doesn't have to be perfect. Oh, and I should probably draw her other arm. Oh gosh, I'm getting so distracted. All right. Make sure I give her like a little bit of arm fat. So I'm going to pull that out a little bit more, give her like a crease here. And then her arm is just going to be kind of resting. Fun fact, if you want to know where your fingertips come to and you're not sure how long to make the arm, your fingertips will come halfway between your hip and your knee when they're spread out. So for example, if her hand is more relaxed, they're going to come a little bit higher. We are going to go for relaxed because oh, hello, Lila. Let's move that cat. My husband has like a psycho bangle, and she doesn't get along with anyone, and she will attack my sweet old lady on sight. And now that we've moved, we've decided this is like a good opportunity to try and integrate them again and do it right this time. So we are holding off on feeding them until after the stream because we want to feed them together so they can watch each other and just try and foster some good experiences among the sisters. And she and Spice are not a fan. So if you see them walking around, they're trying to get my attention because around now, 6 East Coast time, this is around where they usually get fed. So they're not happy because usually I feed them before or my husband feeds them during the stream. All right, there we go. That kind of works. She looks very serene. I'm pretty happy with it. Let's go with this. And then I feel like maybe she'd be wearing gloves too. Should we give her gloves? It seems like a military thing that she'd have gloves. I'm gonna give her some gloves. I'm gonna give her like some tall, sort of heart-shaped gloves. It feels very militaristic uniform. Those would probably be black because I guess if she's like comforting dying people on the battleground like her, that would not stay periwinkle for very long. And maybe those can be black and then part of the rest of her uniform can be like a different color. And then we'll have, of course, she's wearing this jacket. So let's have, maybe those are like pulled into the gloves. That makes sense. Okay. Okay. And then over here, I'm just going to kind of run this down the other side of her body for the, oh, well, I guess it would come out because of her chest. The mannequin I'm looking at does not have boobs. All right. This would come out and then just sort of like drape along the side of her body. It goes pretty far down. Like come out and then hang off of her knee like that. And then this one is kind of moving backwards. Oh, right. Well, maybe the jacket is like dark, but it has like some periwinkle or lavender trim or something. Give it like a stripe here and maybe a stripe here. And then let's do some sort of pattern because I feel like a lot of military uniforms have like maybe a pattern that matches the flag. I'm not, I have no idea actually. I've never researched military uniforms. But we'll do some like little stripes or something. Maybe that's part of their flag. It feels significant. Okay, that's fine. And then of course there would need to be pockets, but I guess there isn't really much of an opportunity to show that there are pockets here. All right. Oh, and she has these like special buttons on here. And they go, oh, I guess they just go down at the chest. All right. Like that, and then we'll have, oh, they're on both sides, aren't they? All right, so we'll put some here. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and do the boots and draw those in more detail. And then if anyone has suggestions for the rest of her outfit, go ahead and let me know. If you have any thoughts, Beth, on like what you want the rest of her clothes to be. I know you weren't super specific, but if anything's jumping to mind, feel free to let me know and we'll take a look. And then we're doing just sort of military riding boots, with the exception of Scoria. In general, I'm not a fan of boots with heels, regardless of the character, because it just doesn't make sense for adventuring, and it's stupid. Unless the character is impractical and that's part of their personality. So we always do boots that you can walk in. I'm going to kind of follow that heart-shaped vibe over here. So we're going to do that here. Maybe there's like a heart with stripes as the symbol of the flag. That would make sense. Yes, Scoria makes her own rules. Typing down the side of the pants. Okay, yeah, we can definitely do that. Oh, and then I had the running up the side, didn't I? Right. And then I feel like this just kind of needs a big belt. Like I don't know about you. It feels like, I don't know, maybe because that's just kind of like a thing. I'm feeling like high-waisted with a big belt. I don't know. Is that too piratey? Maybe that's too piratey. Okay. And then of course you should have like some large legit pockets. And probably like a belt pouch or something. I don't know. We'll show like the side of one. I might give her actually like a side. Well, I'm thinking if I want to do like, I guess I would interrupt the piping, but that's fine. She needs like a place to put things. Because I feel like if she's kneeling down next to someone who's dying, like it's convenient to have that right within reaching distance, like on her thigh. Um, yeah, we'll do that. think it's just on the outside, right? Where they put piping. Could be wrong. All right. Oh, and then we should give her a shirt. She needs a shirt. All right. Probably, I mean, I feel like it's military, so it would probably have like a collar. I'm also realizing her center line is off, so it'll actually be over here. I feel like her neck should be longer too. Oh well, it's fine. All right, I'm gonna give her like a partially unbuttoned shirt, but I'm gonna give her like a collared shirt so that it feels like, I don't know, like she's off duty or something. But I would imagine she buttons it up more when she's on duty to look a little bit more professional. But I know we're going for like a more relaxed, sort of like gentle vibes look. Put that right there. There we go. Feel like she'd get that like puckering, which happens like whenever you have big boobs and you try to wear a collared shirt, and it sucks because they don't really think about women when they make these, and it's the fucking military. All right. Is that it? That might be it for her. Do you have any other thoughts, Beth? Anything else you want to add? Oh, we should add a holy symbol, shouldn't we? Um, does she wear that as like a necklace? Or I guess that could be like a pin or something, which feels a little more militaristic. Okay. Which, FYI, I completely forgot. I know you asked me like earlier. I got this scrap paper. Um, but yeah, a symbol for Mortara and Fiava are really similar, where Fiava is like a triangle, uh, showing that she sort of like spreads life onto the material plane. Mortara's life is an inverted triangle because she like collects things from the material plane so that it doesn't become overwhelmed. So she's sort of consolidating. So it's basically the same symbol. They're just worn in different positions. And this one is black and this one is white. Or wait, no, I didn't do white for white is seoed. I think hers is green. Um, green and gray maybe, but yeah. So it's the symbols are pretty simple. It's not overly complicated. Okay, I think we're good. I'm going to go over and I just don't want to lose too many of these details. So I'm going to at least re-emphasize like some of the areas over here, or maybe I'll go back and do those in Micron actually. Okay. Let's go ahead and I'm going to grab my Micron pen again. And let's just quickly go through and go over the eyes, just keep them as they are, and add some of those darks. And does she have black hair? I think she does. I'm gonna double check. Dark brown, okay. All right, I think it's fine. I'm gonna make her eyebrows have some hints of black in them anyway, because sometimes your eyebrows are darker than your hair anyway. Right. All right, so I know you said she was really pale, so let's go ahead and mix up the skin color. I'm gonna start with this pinkish color. Because with the blue eyes, I'm gonna assume with that and pale skin, she's Caucasian. And that often has a pinkish, orangish undertone. So add a little bit of orange in, get something kind of peachy. We're not gonna use a whole lot of color. We're just gonna keep it super pale. Partially because she was described as pale and partially because if we're giving her freckles, we need to keep everything fairly light so that they stand out. To another specification on the character sheet. So for anyone watching, what I usually do is the character sheet will, or the character survey will give me an idea of what the character looks like. If the player is on stream when that happens, great, I ask them questions. If not, I kind of go off of that and I sort of invent as well based on my own thoughts. It's about to do her hands, but then I realized I don't think she's showing any skin past this area. So that makes things easier. I'm gonna put a more sort of like fleshy, maybe ruby red in here for the cheeks. I want to keep a little bit of that because I know when people are really pale, you can see the flush on their cheeks a lot more. In general, when you have darker skin, you focus more on reflected light. And then when you have lighter skin, you focus more on like undertone coloring. So for people who are really, really pale, you let that undertone coloring pull to the surface and you have the most capillaries in your ears and like cheeks and nose. So sometimes in really pale people, the red becomes especially evident. Which I'm also kind of taking from Beth because she has like these really beautiful like pink flush on her cheeks, and I'm kind of pulling that through for her character. And then usually whatever color you use for the cheeks, you're also going to use for the lips because that's sort of your natural blush tone. If anyone is wondering what color lipstick you look good in, go towards the tint that your cheeks turn when you're flushed. Right, and then usually your upper lip is turned down, whereas your lower lip is turned out. So it usually makes the upper lip appear darker. And then usually you have like a darker or a lighter lower lip. And then I'm going to mix in like a really, really dark red, the point it moves toward brown, just to kind of, her lips are slightly parted. So I want to pull that out here. And then we're going to go with like a olive for her cheekbones. You don't want to overemphasize the cheekbones, especially on characters that aren't super thin, because they're not going to have as much of a sharp line there, but you definitely want to give some sort of indication to show there's some shading, because regardless of how someone looks, that your face, is going to curve downwards at some point. It just may not be as sharp. So you still want to put some sense of shading on there. But the softer and more gentle of a curve you want to give someone's face, the less sharp you make those lines for the shading. I want to make sure I tint it toward green, because if you go too blue with female characters, it can look a little bit too much like a 5 o'clock shadow. I think this is fine. I also really like colorful shadows. I might have to go a little darker with that, actually. Sometimes I can add in some purple, and that works better than blue. Yeah, that feels a little more natural for the shadow. There we go. And then I want to make sure we add in some shading over here around the eyes. Especially here to give an indication of how far in the bridge of her nose comes. And she has blue eyes, so I want to make sure that I pull those out because those can be very vivid. I'm gonna give her deep blue eyes because people with really like pale ice blue eyes feel a little bit less calming. Because the bigger your pupils are, the more people perceive you as like trustworthy. So if you have like really light eyes, it makes your pupils look smaller in comparison. And so people perceive people with really light eyes to be less trustworthy, just in general. So the darker your eyes are in shade, regardless of color, like the more calm and trustworthy you look. Fun fact. I'm just painting in her eyebrows a little bit darker because I went over them with that flesh tone. Oh, good. I'm glad that. And let's go through and just mix up like a nice brown for her. I feel like brown is such a calming, nice color, says the girl with brown hair. But it really is. I want to give like a really rich brown that has a lot of saturation and pigment in it. So I'm going to drop in some water into my color palette here. And I want to make sure that we have like plenty of color here to really play with. And I may go back and pull in some shadow areas later on. But for now, as like an initial layer, I want to really lay in some of these rich brown tones. I feel like it's just going to feel like a friendlier character. And I think a lot of Julianne, from what I've read of her backstory and character description, her personality is very welcoming and sort of encourages people to be at ease. So I think having like as non-threatening and as welcoming of a demeanor / coloring as possible, the better. But Beth, if you don't like this, we can always darken it later. It's no trouble. I also know your other character has like auburn hair. So if you don't want to be too close to your other character, we can play around with it. And just like before, I'm tapping in extra areas of pigment because when I first go in with my brush, it has to be fairly dry just so that I can articulate the shapes that I want. Once I've done that, I can go back in with a little bit more pigment on my brush. And if it's still damp, it'll automatically fill in those areas. But I'm kind of loving this shade for her. Okay, let's keep it like that. And then while we're waiting for that to dry, which is going to take a while because I did pool in a ton of pigment just because I really wanted that rich color in there. We'll go ahead and do some of the rest of her. Maybe we can lay in the sort of like violet periwinkle areas, which can be like the piping on her suit, I guess. Maybe we'll have periwinkle on the sides and then we can have sky blue on the bottom. And kind of mix up the boots as well as those two colors. Come back to this bit at the top because it is touching our hair, but we can do the rest. Okay. And let's put in some blue. Just add a little bit of purple to the sides here. I think that's all the Fenderan piping I was thinking of, unless you want to add like a splash of color somewhere else. I think the rest of her uniform might be pretty dark. I'm just kind of thinking like if she's working with a lot of blood, I don't know if it would make sense for her to be brightly colored aside from like just some piping to show her colors. Okay, great. Sorry, there's a lag. So I'm like waiting for a beat and then continuing to talk and then looking up and seeing the chat. All right. I think this is looking good. And we'll go ahead and start in with like, we'll have, ooh, we can play around with some of the gold paint. That'll be fun. Mix that with some yellows. I'll tap that in. I think a lot of this is just going to be waiting for things to dry. All right, we'll go ahead and just mix up some browns for her saber and stuff. I think even if she isn't all black, they probably wouldn't have special commissioned a like a sheath or holder for her. Since it's the military, she probably was given like a standard issue kind of thing. So she may have spots of brown and then like the majority of the uniform they assigned her is black. Do kind of like a nice darkish leather though, so that it doesn't feel like it's super out of the norm. Right. I think what I might do for some of these other parts, because if I use something really dark, it's just going to go over the pencil. Is I might articulate her fingers with some pen, because this is going to be darker than like a black watercolor wash. If it's a black ink, it's definitely not going to be darker, but I can probably draw some of these details on with pen and they're going to show up if I go black over them, which I think might make sense because I'm thinking about leaning pretty dark here. Oh, I forgot to do the sky blue on the bottom of her coat. Ooh, what if we did like black ink on the bottom and then worked up to a black watercolor, which would be a little lighter. It could be like an ombre effect or something. That could be fun. Right. Oh, okay, great. We'll do that then. I'm just going to go over this with black so that the watercolor stands out. I'm still waiting for like these parts of our hair to dry. This area over here looks pretty dry, but I want to make sure it's all dry before we start off. Because we really don't want is black ink to get merged with her hair and to make it look like they're connected. We need to make it look like her hair is separate from her body. We'll go ahead and add some darkened areas over here. Right, I guess this is kind of boring. I don't have a whole lot to say about it, just that I'm coloring stuff in, trying to lay everything down while this dries. Just trying to find like a light shade and a shadow shade to a few different things. Having some fun adding some gold here and here. In general, you want to lay in your lighter areas before starting on your darker areas. So I do think for things like this, where it's just going to be like black and it's probably going to be mostly ink, it doesn't particularly matter. It's more like you don't want to go over something with dark watercolor with the lighter color, because it's just going to mix together and it's going to muddy your other color. But if you use ink, ink is acrylic and it is permanent, at least the kind I use. So it doesn't really matter. You can go over it. Let me see if I can get kind of like a purpley brown for the wood to match the colors. That works. Maybe there's a tree that has like purpley wood in Fendere, and that's partially why their color is purple. Put some like streaks of blue through it. Whatever, it's fantasy wood. All right. It's like close to dry. I don't want to go all the way up here. You know, we can do her pants. So let's do that. Get out my black acrylic ink. I like to use FW for acrylic ink because it's acrylic. So it's not going to reawaken anything once you lay it down. It's a little goopier than some inks, but a lot of calligraphy inks, which people use for things like this, are not acrylic. So they're not as great for illustration unless you're being really, really precise. And usually watercolor doesn't get quite this dark, so I don't add acrylic ink. But I think for a near all black ensemble, it kind of makes sense. I had these like little palettes. I think they might be in the dishwasher. I just unpacked them. It's okay. I don't like putting it on here because then it'll flake when it's dried because it doesn't dissolve or reawaken. Like it's kind of set. So once it's set, it's either going to stick to your palette or slowly flake off. And those flakes are super annoying because they get into your other watercolors. I learned that the hard way. Here, I have like a tiny little bit. There's another palette. Not another palette, another water dish. I'll put like a little bit in there so I can play around with it. So I think your boots will be all black and the pants will kind of fade up. Oh gosh, I'm realizing I didn't even do the trim on the back of the coat. So many things to add. I'm trying really hard not to get too much pigment on my brush, which is why I'm like wiping it off even though I put a ton down. Because I can't get a extremely precise line if I have a lot of ink on there. I really don't want to mess this up because ink is something you cannot erase or go back with. I can, just like watercolor, drop some in, but that only works while it's wet. So in the dry areas over here, it's not really going to do anything. But the more I drop it in, the darker in general it will get. And ink can actually get basically completely black and it'll be super graphic, as opposed to watercolor, which, unless you just scrape the pigment onto your paper, which really is not how watercolor is meant to be used, it's only going to get so black. It's not going to ever be completely pitch. Oh, good. I'm glad you like them, Beth. Shoot, I did cut into the line here. Well, I guess we can fix it with the magic of Photoshop, potentially. It's not horrible. But it is definitely more than I wanted to cut in here. I think I should probably buy new acrylic ink too, because this one is a little old. A little more glommy than it should be. Okay. I think we're good with the boots. So I'm going to go back and maybe add in like some of the leather areas over here. And then we'll go back because the boots are still wet now. So we want to kind of like do this as a patchwork if we have a lot of areas that are going to be wet at once. So usually for watercolor, instead of just sectioning off areas, it looks a little bit cleaner if you go over the entire area and then just add darker layers to it the farther you go on. So I have a light shade, I want to add a shadow shade at some point, but right now I'm just going to go over this entire thing instead of worrying about making like a really precise line, because making another line next to it will often look strange. Right, and then, oh shoot, that was dipped it in the ink. Gotta switch these. All right. Oh, I need to go over her other fingers too. The black. I'll probably start on the black watercolor in a minute, actually. At least just on like the hands and stuff. This is probably going to look dark initially, but it's not going to dry as dark. So once it is dry, you should be able to see the little lines that I drew in with the micron pen through it. You can get some of the detail out that way. Maybe not over the stream because I think it ups the contrast a little bit. But in person and when I scan it, you should be able to see it. Or I don't know, if it dries later than I think, maybe you can't see it on stream. Okay, yeah, that's working. And then I think, see, I do also want to just add a little shadow by her collarbone. Right. All right, and then at this point, this should be pretty dry. So we can go in with a second layer. I'm just gonna do a darker version of this same leather color. Okay. Just getting some water because my other water was very inky. I'd like some fresh water for this. We should probably do the other things that are not black before we dive in because it's gonna mess with our water. So I think I'm gonna grab maybe a little bit of silver, do some silver buttons. We'll see how effective it looks. I'm gonna put some over on my palette first. I think against the black, it'll really pop and look fun. I'm not sure if you can see it on stream, but it's very sparkly. Just adding some extra sparkle up here. All right. So I think this part down here is pretty much set. So I'm gonna grab some ink and starting about here, this will be all ink. And just kind of chisel it in, slowly transition to watercolor and then start fading it out. Okay, here's black watercolor. Kind of mix them together. And just start adding some water here. Pulling this up. I want to make sure it's a little bit more of a slow fade out. I'm just adding a lot of water to the black watercolor on the side. And hopefully they'll kind of match up. No, I think a little of the silver is bleeding into the black, but that's all right. Okay. Oh, good. I'm glad you like it, Beth. It's coming back down. We'll go ahead and switch back to ink again. Since the watercolor is already wet, it's just going to kind of bleed up there by itself. And we can also put black over here. I'm thinking if I put black on the inside of the cloak, first of all, it's gonna blend in with the legs and I'm worried we'll lose the legs. But also it might be a fun place to add a pop of color, like maybe there's like a deep purple lining or something on the inside of the cloak. So it's still dark, but there's like a hint of color to it. Let me get really dark because I don't want the hand to get mixed up or lost. All right, let's rough this in, try to keep it wet, and then I'm just going to add a ton of black to it so it'll dry really dark black. Okay, we'll see how that looks. And then I think the shirt can be a little more forgiving. It could be like more of a grayish black, but then the belt could be really dark to separate them a little bit more. I'm going to go back in here and I think this is dry now. Good. Okay. Okay, let's do that then. Actually, I have a lot of red and blue left over from when I did Scoria, so we can add some deep purple in there. All right, I'm just going to tilt this a little bit so that I can paint along the edge a little more effectively. I don't want to move into her pants with the back of the cloak. Coat. So used to D&D characters having cloaks. All right. And then I guess the outside of the coat should be pretty dark as well. Okay. feel like once we finish the black, we're going to be pretty much done with her. Unless there's anything that you think we need to add on, Beth. Let me go ahead and do this on both sides. Actually, this is still wet, isn't it? Okay. I guess I will go up to the bottom fold of her sleeve and we'll wait for a sec. Okay. Just rotating this around. Right. Oh, I'm so glad. All right, I'm gonna take a break and put some color on her buttons, and then we'll do her shirt and we'll be pretty much done. So last chance to add something if you have anything to add. So maybe I'll just go over buttons, pull them out later. That might be simpler. Okay, great. All right. Oh no, did we lose connection for a sec? Looks like it. I don't know if I lagged. My computer was lagging. Okay, it depends on how fast this takes to dry. But I might go back in and and play around with it a little bit more and add some shadows, but I might do that off stream as well if it takes too long. But I think we're almost done, which looking at the time, we were very fast today. Usually it takes like 4 hours to do these. It's taken like 3. But I think Beetle was really fast. She was wearing less complicated clothing, and also I'm very used to drawing cats. All right. I feel like the pin is kind of getting lost. Maybe I'll go back over and emphasize it as well. I'm actually still afraid to paint this little area because I feel like it's still not dry. I'm gonna leave it for a minute. I'm gonna paint it off stream. But I think for the most part, she's pretty much done. And yeah, here's our cleric. All right. Thanks so much for joining. All right, you're welcome. And when I finally find my stupid scanner cable, I will send you a scan. And oh, right. Before we sign off, I will plug one last time. So tomorrow we have Chaos Curiosities at 6 p.m. We have At the Threshold at 5 p.m. on Thursday. Friday at 7 p.m. we have Solemn Exterior. Next week on Monday, we have Artena coming back at 5 p.m. And then next Tuesday, we have a 1 p.m. Watercolor Wizardry stream, followed by at 4:30 p.m. the first ever one-shot for Misguided Magic as we start our 5e adventure with this lovely character. And I think that's all we've got. Thank you so much for everyone who watched.